Welcome back to my solitaire learning game of Labyrinth. Since the last video, I've placed a cadre recruit marker in Russia that we forgot to do as a result of Disrupt. I then added a new component to the game. I've pimped my game. Well, not really, these are the same plastic cubes that we used in Operation Kremlin. And in this case, I'm hoping they'll remind me to resolve plots in a timely manner. And by on time, I mean immediately following the US action phase, after the phase in which they're placed on the board. I have a tendency to get wrapped up in the card play and conveniently forget about the plots till the end of the turn, and that's bad, 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 bad. So, whenever a plot is placed on a country from here on out, one of these red cubes will follow it and hopefully stand out enough to remind me to deal with them correctly. So I've drawn a new hand of cards. We received 9 this turn, Jihadist AI only 7. We're going to continue with the game as is. And I think that there are a couple of more turns left in the second deck. So we're going pretty quickly here now. Here is the US hand. We have 3 US Associated Events, Special Forces, Quartet, and the door of East Jihad was closed. We have 4 unassociated event, Hezbollah, oil price spike, Gitmo, and US election. And we have only 2 Jihadist Associated events, FRAs and clean operatives. Alright, let's slow things down for this video. Which will probably mean that it'll be longer than usual, but it's the weekend and I'm feeling kind of groggy, so it'll match my mood if we do it more in detail. Plus I could really probably use the help that I get from trying to explain what I'm doing aloud. First, during the Jihadist action phase, they draw a Merithrax, US domestic terror distraction. US side discards its highest value US associated event card if it has any. Yeah, we have some. We have a really good one. This one, which would have allowed us to, if played, prevent the Jihadists from playing any non-US events during the whole turn. So that was a really great card that we will no longer get to use. And for their second card, they play this, and it's a non-playable US event. Taking a look at the board, we currently only see 2 cells, one in Libya, another active one in France. There are a couple of cadre recruit markers, one in Russia, one in China. So they would use this to recruit in the country with the highest recruit success number, and that would be Libya, which is at poor. We'll grab 3 dice for the 3 ops and hope to roll 3 or less as the Jihadists, and they get 1 success. There's still 2 more cells available to them for future recruit actions. And that ends their action phase. For the first US action, we'll play a 3 ops card to perform a war of ideas in Egypt to try to improve governance there. +1, +2, -1. So we're at a +2 die roll. We roll a 6 and succeed. Then we will follow that with this card, Guantanamo Pen Suspects Offshore. Roll Prestige. It drops by 2. Still barely in the very high section of the Prestige track. The first Jihadist card is Libyan WMD, a US associated event that is playable, so they'll use it to plot and plot in countries, in a non-Muslim country in France. So they roll a die for France, hoping for a 1. They roll a 6. For their second card, they draw Predator, another playable US event, to plot again in France. They roll a 5. We're going to focus on Egypt this turn and play this to try to shift it to ally. So we get +1, +2, -1, so we're at a +2. And we succeed. And then we'll play this to add to the reserves. The Jihadist AI pulls Moro Talks, a playable US event that they'll use to plot in France. And they succeed. So let's see which one we'll pull. The third one. This lands in France. And their second card will be place a cell in Pakistan and India. This is technically not a recruit operation. And that ends their action phase. I think what we're going to have to do is play this for the ops to alert France of this plot. And it's a 1 plot that goes back to the track, which means that this event is automatically triggered. Roll US posture. It stays at hard. Then we would lose a prestige, dropping down to 9. And we're going to follow that up with this event, bringing prestige back up to 11 and funding down to 1. For their final card, the Jihadist AI plays Taliban, place besieged regime in Afghanistan. There's already one there. And place a cell there and in Pakistan. -1 prestige. Down to 10, still very high. And for our last 2 cards, we're going to play this along with one of these reserves to try to improve governance in Egypt. So we get +1, +2, -1, and another -1 for shifting to good. So we're at +1, and we roll a 6. Good resources goes up to 14, and we're going to discard our final card. Here is our hand for turn 13. We have 5 US associated events, 3 Jihadist associated events, 1 unassociated event. We got biometrics that affects Jihadist travel this turn. This would allow us to remove a besieged regime marker. There's one in Afghanistan. This one affects events and cells in Russia or Central Asia. We remember Intel Community from, I think it was the first turn. This one only triggers if the US is at soft. It would affect, improve alliance of a country. This would allow us to reveal and remove plots in ally or non-Muslim countries. This places a cell in Somalia, and you know what? Yes, I remember discarding this before. We have Gaza War again, which drops prestige and raises funding. And Axis of Evil. I don't think we'll be playing this, but it would force us to discard one of these events from our hand and roll prestige. Our posture is already set to hard. Entering the first Jihadist action phase, they draw a US associated event that is playable. They'll use that to instead plot, and I believe they'll plot in France. Let me check. They could plot in India. India or France? Odds, evens. They're plotting in France and hoping to roll a 1. They roll a 4, fail. Second card. And this is a unplayable US associated event. So with this, they will conduct a minor jihad in Pakistan. So that's 1. They're hoping to roll a 1. They roll a 3 and fail. This goes back to the funding track. I think we're going to play biometrics and Sharia for the events to remove the besieged regime marker from Afghanistan and to force the jihadist AI to roll when traveling to adjacent countries that are good, and to prevent non-adjacent travel this turn. Jihadist first card is a playable unassociated event. They set Central Asia to neutral and roll governance as if in an initial test. And actually, this shifts to fair. And now, according to the solitaire flowchart, after we resolve the unassociated event, we check to see if in this case, a minor jihad would be possible in a good or fair country. So we roll another die, and that fails. For their second card, it's an unplayable US associated event, which means this means that they're going to travel to an adjacent good country if possible. Let's see. Odds, evens. They'll have to roll a 1, and that travel attempt fails. For our first card, we'll play Intel Community for the event. US agencies focus on counterterror. Inspect Jihadist hand. They have 3 cards remaining. Regional Al-Qaeda. Play if you can select 2 unmarked Muslim countries, not Iran. Place a cell in each or 2 in each if Islamist rule. We have Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Yemen. Then we have this non-playable US associated event. And then detainee release. Play if US disrupted this or last action phase. Okay, so that would mean this next action phase. Alright, so we'll conduct a 1-value operation and disrupt in France. And we may interrupt this action phase now to play an extra card. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to save some cards and hold them to react to what I just saw in their hand. So we're going to play our second card, knowing that they don't have loose nuke HE or Kazakh strain. And since there are no cells in Russia or Central Asia, I'm actually going to spend this for the ops to conduct a war of ideas in Central Asia to try to bring them up to ally, which means we get +2 for prestige, a -1 for GWOT relations. So that's a +1 on the die roll. And a modified 5 means we succeeded. Now we enter the jihadist action phase, and they get regional al-Qaeda. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's Algeria and Yemen. Each of those countries receives a cell. We're going to test their postures, or I suppose I should say governance. On a 5 or 6 it would be fair. We are going to play back channel for the ops to conduct a war of ideas in Algeria to improve governance from port of fair. We get +2, -1. That's +1. And we succeed. And let's spend this here to do the same thing. +1, +2, -1, we're at a +2. And we succeed here as well. For their final card, the jihadists play Detainee Release, which, if memory serves me right, doesn't get triggered. And they'll use that as an unplayable non-US event to conduct a minor jihad in Algeria, rolling a die. They roll a 3 and fail. As usual, I've saved the worst for last. We have 3 cards remaining. We can discard 1. And these are the 2 that we'll be playing. We'll go ahead and start with this. And trigger the event, place a cell in Somalia. And we'll use the 1 op to conduct a war of ideas in Spain to try to harden posture. Stays at soft. Gaza war would drop prestige. We're right on the brink here of dropping into the high zone, so if we're going to conduct any other war of ideas in Muslim countries, we better do so before we trigger the event. And I think I'll do that in Yemen to improve alignment. +1, +2, -1 is at +2. And we get a 4 modified, which brings aid to Yemen. We drop prestige by 1, raise funding by 1, and that ends this turn. Funding drops back down to 1. Prestige remains where it is at 9 or high. We'll deal new hands, 9 cards for the US and 7 for the jihadist AI. We're going to tack on another turn. Turn 14. Surprisingly, the last full turn of deck 2 before we hit the reshuffle. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm trying to fit 3 turns in a video now, but also because we have a lot of cards that have been removed from the deck, still others that have been marked and removed as well. Taking a look at the US hand, we have 3 US events, 3 unassociated events, and 3 jihadist events. This allows us to select the posture of Benelux, drop funding by 1. A good event I think I'll use to try to bring the penalty back to 0 on the GWOT relations. We're familiar with Predator. Sistani I'll probably use for the ops, as the preconditions are not currently being met, and I don't see it being met very easily. This would allow us to remove up to 2 cells in a country that's Shia mix and has both cells and troops. Currently, the troops are in the Philippines and Syria, and what I should be doing is deploying them elsewhere where there are cells or cadre recruit markers. So it's possible that I could prepare to do that here, but really there aren't that many cells quite yet. I'm looking at Afghanistan for a possibility of activating that card. This I'll most likely play for the ops because it would set Pakistan back to poor ally if it has cells. Oil price spike we've seen before, and this one as well, better played earlier than later. Surprisingly, I have Fatah. It says marked, so I haven't removed it, so I've received it and it's already been played. You would still place a cell in Pakistan. But the marker for Fatah is already there. That reminds us that we cannot conduct disrupt operations there unless it's a regime change country, and it blocks US bin Laden Zawahiri and is removed by Pakistani offensive. This card is a very tricky one to resolve. Automatically travel 2 cells to or within any Schengen country. I'm gonna have to decide if I would rather place a cell in Pakistan. Since we can't disrupt there, I'm most likely going to be playing Schengen visas instead. So with that, let's enter turn 14. The first jihadist card is... Ooh. Play if Iraq, poor adversary. Set funding to 9. Saddam captured has already been played. Luckily, this is blocked. It's a non-playable, non-US event. So instead what they're going to do is conduct a minor jihad in Somalia. That was really close. And they fail. And for their second card, they get to place 2 cells in Indonesia. We are going to play this card for the ops. The event doesn't get triggered to deploy troops from Syria to Indonesia. And then we're going to play this for the event. European Muslims search for a third way to select the posture of Benelux. GWOT relations goes to 0 for the penalty. Jihadist funding is already at 1. This event is removed. The jihadists play Hambali. Play if Indonesia, an adjacent country, has a cell and is ally or hard. Indonesia has cells but is neutral. India has a cell and is hard. So this is a playable event. Place an available plot there. Place this. And then they get to do something special with these 3 ops. They'll conduct a minor jihad in Yemen, hoping for a 1 or a 2. And they fail. Their second card is Pirates. Play if Somalia or Yemen under Islamist rule, which it's not, luckily. So that is a playable... No, it's not. It's an unplayable... It looks like they will travel to Pakistan from odds, evens, Afghanistan. We'll play, let's see, Sistani to alert India of this terror plot. And then we'll play Predator to remove this cell from Pakistan. Next, the jihadists play Foreign Fighters. Play if a country has regime change. It's an unplayable event, so they'll spend the 3 ops to travel the cell from India to Pakistan. And for their second card, they'll use this 3-ops card to plot. And they'll plot in either Libya or Pakistan. It looks like we'll be plotting plot priorities: fair, good, poor. Pakistan. So they're hoping for a 1. Oh, and they succeed. Alright, so let's see which plot we bring to the board. Third one. For the US action phase, let's see if we can block that. With oil price spike, we'll spend another 2 ops to disrupt in Indonesia. We can affect 2 cells, as there are 2 or more troop cubes there, and because of that we gain a prestige. The last jihadist card is Iran. Shia regional power active. Select and test a Shia mixed country. Okay, select and test. That would be any Shia mixed country. And we have a little table for that. The sum of 3 dice. Eight gives us Lebanon. So we roll a 2, it remains poor, and we make 2 jihad rolls there: ignore failures or shift to Islamist rule. So there's 1 success. Shift. I believe that brings them to adversary. Okay, so because that's an unassociated event, they also get to do something. And it looks like they'll be conducting a minor jihad in Pakistan. Rolling once, hoping for a 1. Oh wow! Again, succeeding in Pakistan. This time they're worsening governance from good to fair. That drops good resources to 12. And that ends the jihadist action phase. We have 3 cards left. We'll be discarding Fatah and playing these 2. Remove up to 2 cells if a Shia mixed country has cells and troops. The only Shia mixed country that has any cells is Pakistan. But we can't disrupt there, so that would be a good way to get rid of that cell, but that would leave behind a cadre recruit marker anyway. The only way we can get rid of cells by disrupting is if the country is a regime change country. So instead I think we will spend this to disrupt here, because we know we have Schengen visas coming up. We can disrupt these 2 active cells, placing them back on the track. We gain a prestige for that again. And then we have another 2 ops. Let's see. I'm thinking about conducting a war of ideas, and I can do that in Pakistan, Central Asia, Yemen, Turkey. I think we'll go with Turkey. We get +1 for the aid, +2 for prestige, that's +3. We roll a 3, and we'll bump it up to ally. Now we're going to travel 2 cells automatically to 6. Actually, it's 1 die roll, 6. To Italy and to Scandinavia. From 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Libya and odds evens from Pakistan. We're discarding Fatah, and Jadis funding stays at 1, US prestige stays at 11, very high. We'll be drawing 9 cards for the next turn, turn 15 on the next video. Jadis player, 7 cards.